The first thing I remember is the sound of crystal clinking, sharp and high, cutting through the low hum of conversation. Chloe was standing on a podium beneath a chandelier that cost more than my entire education, holding the Platinum Prism Award above her head like a trophy from a war she hadn't fought. She looked radiant. That was the thing about my sister. She always looked the part. The silk dress, the perfect smile, the way she could hold a room just by breathing. "This award isn't just for me," she said, her voice smooth as polished glass. "It's for the vision of Verdant City. For the dream." The room applauded. My parents, James and Angela, beamed from the front row, their faces tight with pride and expensive skincare. They clapped the loudest, validating the investment they'd made in their golden child. I stood in the shadows near the catering entrance, holding a tray of empty champagne flutes. I wasn't wearing silk. I was wearing the black uniform of the hired help, invisible against the dark wood paneling. I didn't move. I didn't clap. I just watched. Then Chloe's eyes found me. Her smile didn't falter, but it changed, sharpened. And of course, she continued, gesturing vaguely in my direction, "We can't forget the little people who keep the gears turning. My sister Ellie. The best family assistant anyone could ask for. She keeps our schedules organized so the real creatives can work." Laughter rippled through the room. Polite, wealthy laughter. It washed over me, cold and familiar. My parents chuckled along, nodding as if to say, "Yes, isn't it sweet that we found a use for her?" I didn't flinch. I didn't look down. I just stared at her, feeling the weight of the tray in my hands, the weight of 10 years of silence pressing against my ribs. Then he moved. Jason, the man Chloe had been parading around for weeks as her new conquest, stepped out from beside her. He hadn't clapped. He hadn't smiled. He was looking at her, then at my parents, and finally his gaze landed on me. It was a look of recognition. He set his glass down on a passing waiter's tray. The sound was distinct, a heavy thud that seemed to echo in the sudden quiet. "Interesting," he said, his voice low but carrying effortlessly across the room. "Because you're trespassing. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community." The Ellison Group wasn't founded on genius. It was founded on my father's handshake and my mother's ability to host a dinner party. They built the facade, the shimmering glass exterior that clients love to see. But the foundation, that was me. I started fixing things when I was 12. At first, it was small, like organizing the filing cabinets or correcting typos in proposal letters. But as I got older, the tasks grew. I taught myself CAD software while Chloe was at cheer practice. I learned structural engineering principles while she was learning how to charm investors. By the time I was 22, I was the one correcting load-bearing calculations on major projects. I remember one night specifically. It was 3 years ago. The Riverfront Bridge project. Chloe had been the lead on it, naturally. She'd presented the initial concept to the city council with dazzling confidence, selling them on a sweeping, suspended design that looked like a silver ribbon floating over the water. But at 3 a.m, staring at the schematics in the basement office I'd converted from a storage closet, I found it. A critical error in the tension cable distribution. It was subtle, buried deep in the math, but it was fatal. If built as designed, the bridge would hold under normal conditions. But in a high wind event, which is common for our city, the harmonic resonance would tear it apart. It would have collapsed within 5 years. I didn't panic. I didn't run upstairs to wake anyone. I just felt a cold knot of dread in my stomach, followed by the familiar, heavy resignation. I spent the next 6 hours re-engineering the entire support system. I redrew the anchor points. I recalculated the tensile strength requirements. I saved the firm from a catastrophic lawsuit and potential criminal negligence charges. When I showed my parents the next morning, exhausted and bleary-eyed, I expected something. Relief. Gratitude. My father just frowned at the red ink on the blueprints. "Don't be so dramatic, Ellie," he said, sipping his coffee. "It's just a technicality." Chloe provided the vision. That's the hard part. The math is just details. Details that keep people alive, I whispered. "We all have our roles," my mother added, patting my hand dismissively. "Chloe is the artist. You're the mechanic. We need both. Now go get cleaned up. We have a lunch meeting and I need you to organize the portfolio." That was the trap. It's strange how you can get used to drowning if the water rises slowly enough. You start to believe that holding your breath is just how breathing works. For years I told myself this was normal, that every family had a star and a support system. I told myself that my labor was the rent I paid for their love. If I stopped working, if I stopped fixing, if I stopped being useful, would they still keep me? The answer, unspoken but deafening, was always no. So I stayed. I became the ghost in the machine. I convinced myself that being essential was the same thing as being valued. I let them feed off my talent because I was terrified of what would happen if I starved them. I thought I was earning my place. I didn't realize I was just digging my own grave. But the riverfront bridge was years ago. Since then, the stakes had only gotten higher. And the Verdant City project, that was supposed to be my breaking point. Or maybe my masterpiece. I designed every inch of it. Every walkway, every sustainable drainage system, every community gathering space. It was the culmination of everything I knew, everything I dreamed a city could be. Chloe had barely looked at the files. She was too busy planning her outfit for the award ceremony. And now, standing in the shadows of the gala, watching her hold my award, hearing Jason call me a trespasser, something inside me finally snapped. Not with a bang, but with the quiet, definitive click of a lock turning. I wasn't the mechanic anymore. I was the architect, and it was time to bring the whole corrupt structure down. The panic Chloe must have felt when the submission deadline loomed was invisible on the final paperwork. It was clean, professional. I found the submission file for the Verdant City contract deep in the shared drive, buried under layers of marketing assets. It wasn't just a PDF. It was a crime scene. Chloe had opened the master CAD file I'd finalized 3 days ago. She hadn't changed the design. She couldn't if she tried. She didn't know how to navigate the layers of topography and drainage infrastructure without crashing the program. Instead, she'd gone into the title block. She'd deleted my name from the lead architect field. She'd replaced it with her own. Then, she'd exported the file, stripping the metadata that tracked author revisions, and submitted it to the city council under her personal credentials. But that wasn't all. Kept digging. I found the financial records for the project. The city had paid a signing bonus upon acceptance of the bid. $150,000. It was supposed to go into the firm's operating account to pay for materials, permits, and staff salaries. Instead, it had been wired to a private account labeled consulting fees. I traced the account number. It matched the routing number on Chloe's personal credit card statements. Statements I paid every month as part of my administrative duties. She'd stolen the credit. She'd stolen the money. And when I walked into her office, holding the printouts, she didn't even look up from her phone. "I need to talk to you about the Verdant City submission," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. Chloe sighed, tapping out one last text before setting her phone down. "Make it quick, Ellie. I have a fitting for the gala in an hour." I placed the papers on her desk. "You removed my name. And you took the bonus." She glanced at the documents, her expression bored. And, Chloe, that's fraud. That's my work. That's the firm's money." She laughed. It was a light, dismissive sound, like I'd told a joke she didn't quite get. "Oh, Ellie," she said, shaking her head. "You're so literal. Nobody cares who draws the lines. Do you think the city council approved this because of the drainage calculations? They approved it because I sold it to them. They approved it because of the brand I built." She stood up and walked around the desk, stopping in front of me. She reached out and patted my cheek, her nails perfectly manicured, her touch condescendingly gentle. "You're a great drafter, Ellie. Really. But you're not an architect. You're the help. And nobody pays the help $150,000. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Besides, Mom and Dad agreed. They said I needed the money for image consulting. You know, to keep the clients happy. We all have our roles. Yours is to make sure the lights stay on. Mine is to be the light." She pulled back, smiling. "Now run along. I need you to confirm the caterers for tonight. Don't mess it up." She turned her back on me and walked out the door. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty chair. The anger I expected didn't come. Instead, a strange calm washed over me. It was the clarity of a structural engineer realizing a building is condemned. There was no fixing this. There was no renovation that could save a foundation this rotten. The only option was a controlled demolition. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just stood up and walked to the server room. The hum of the cooling fans was the only sound in the office. It was a familiar, comforting drone. This room had been my sanctuary for years, The one place where logic ruled and chaos was just a bug to be patched. I logged into the admin console. My fingers flew across the keyboard, executing commands with the precision of a surgeon. First, the metadata. I pulled the revision history for every file in the Verdant City folder. The timestamps told the story better than any witness could. Ellie, 4:12 in the morning. Ellie, 2:45 in the morning. Ellie, 11:30 at night. Chloe's login appeared only once, at 10 o'clock on the morning of submission day, for a total of 15 minutes. I exported the logs. Next, the emails. I searched the archives for every time Chloe had asked me to fix something she didn't understand. There were hundreds. Ellie, what's a load coefficient? Ellie, how do I make the water flow uphill? Ellie, this looks wrong, just handle it. I compiled them into a single PDF. Finally, the bank records. I accessed the firm's operating account. The transfer to consulting fees stood out like a beacon. $150,000, moved the day after the city's check cleared. I cross-referenced it with the company credit card statements. The consulting fees account had paid for a new wardrobe, a first-class trip to Milan, and a deposit on a Porsche. I downloaded it all. Then, I did something I hadn't planned. I opened the master project file for Verdant City. I looked at the layers of data, the intricate web of design and engineering that I had built from nothing. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And it was stolen. I encrypted the file with a 256-bit key. Then I moved it to a secure off-site server that only I could access. I deleted the local copy. I deleted the backup. I wiped the cloud storage. When I was done, the Ellison Group server contained nothing but a shortcut labeled for the architect. Closed my laptop. The silence in the room felt different now. It wasn't the silence of hiding. It was the silence of a weapon being loaded. I walked out of the office and drove home. I showered, dressed in my simple black dress, and put on a pair of pearl earrings I'd bought myself for my birthday. Then I drove to the gala. The heavy oak doors of the ballroom were closed when I arrived. I could hear the muffled sound of my father's voice, booming and confident, giving a toast. Chloe, he was saying, a shining star, the architect of our future. I waited for the applause to die down. Then I pushed the doors open. They swung wide with a groan that silenced the room. 300 heads turned. My mother, in her shimmering gown, gasped. Chloe, still on the stage with Jason, froze, her smile wavering. I walked down the center aisle. My footsteps echoed on the marble floor. I didn't look at the guests. I didn't look at the waiters. I looked straight at Jason. He nodded almost imperceptibly. Ellie, my father said, stepping forward. His face flushing with anger. What are you doing? You're interrupting. I'm not interrupting, I said, my voice projecting clearly without a microphone. I'm concluding. Concluding what? My mother hissed, rushing to intercept me. Go back to the kitchen. You're embarrassing us. I'm done with the kitchen, mother, I said, sidestepping her. I reached the stage and climbed the stairs. Chloe took a step back, clutching her award like a shield. Ellie, don't, she whispered, her eyes wide with panic. Please. It's too late for please, I said. I turned to Jason. Is it ready? It's ready, he said. He tapped his tablet. The huge projection screen behind us, which had been displaying a slideshow of Chloe's achievements, flickered and went black. Then a new image appeared. It was the metadata log from the Verdant City submission file. What is this? My father demanded, staring at the screen. Just numbers. It's the truth, Jason said, his voice cutting through the confusion. He stepped forward, addressing the room. These logs show who actually designed the project you're celebrating tonight. They show who did the work at 4 in the morning while the lead architect was sleeping. The screen changed. Now it showed the email chains. Ellie, fix this. Ellie, I don't get it. Ellie, handle it. Then, the bank records. The $150,000 transfer. The credit card statements. A murmur went through the crowd. I saw investors pulling out their phones. I saw city council members whispering to each other. This is a lie. Chloe screamed, her composure shattering. He's making it up. It's a glitch. It's not a glitch, Jason said calmly. And it's not the only thing we found. He looked at me. Tell them. I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment of total, irreversible severance. I own the intellectual property for Verdant City, I said. Jason and I filed the copyright amendments this morning. The Ellison Group doesn't own the design. My new company does. What? My father sputtered. My company, I repeated. The one Jason just bought a 51% stake in. The one that now holds the rights to every major project I've fixed in the last 5 years. I looked at my parents. They looked small. Their power, which had always seemed so absolute, was dissolving like sugar in hot water. You have nothing, I told them. You have a brand name that's about to be worthless. And a lead architect who can't even open the software. You're evicted. It was fascinating to watch them crumble. It wasn't a slow erosion. It was a sudden, structural failure. Without the money, without the prestige, without the product I provided, they were just 3 people in expensive clothes standing in a room full of strangers who were rapidly losing interest. My mother started to cry. Not real tears, but the performance of tears. How could you? We're your family. No, I said. You're my landlords. And I'm moving out. I turned and walked off the stage. Jason followed me. We walked back down the aisle, past the silent guests, past the shocked waiters, and out into the cool night air. I didn't look back. The rain in the city felt different than it did at the gala. It wasn't an inconvenience. It was a rhythm. It's been 6 months since the winter solstice gala. 6 months since I walked out of that ballroom and never looked back. My new studio isn't a glass palace. It's on the 2nd floor of a refurbished warehouse in the Arts District. The floors are polished concrete, the walls are exposed brick, and the windows are huge, letting in the gray, honest light of the city. It's filled with plants, ferns cascading from shelves, fiddle-leaf figs reaching for the ceiling. Smells like damp earth and strong coffee. My team is small, just 5 of us, but we're good. We don't have a charismatic front person selling dreams they don't understand. We have architects, engineers, and landscape designers who actually care about the dirt under their fingernails. Jason is here too. He's not my savior. He's my partner. He handles the business side, the contracts, the negotiations, the boring stuff I never had the patience for. He respects my work. He respects me. The Verdant City Park broke ground last week. I went to the site yesterday. It was just a muddy field surrounded by chain-link fences, but I could see it. I could see the lines I drew becoming real. I could see the drainage systems being installed, the foundations being poured. My name is on the project sign. Lead architect. Ellie Ellison. Just me. No group. No team. Just me. I received a letter from my parents last week. Came via registered mail, which meant lawyers were involved. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my desk for a few days, a white envelope like a ghost from my past. When I finally opened it, I wasn't surprised. It was a desperate plea for a settlement. They were begging me to reconsider the IP transfer. They claimed they were facing bankruptcy. They said the Ellison Group brand was worthless without the Verdant City portfolio. They tried to guilt me, of course. We're family, my mother wrote in a shaky hand at the bottom of the legal document. How can you destroy us like this? I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel angry. I just felt clear. I didn't steal their company. I didn't burn down their house. I simply harvested the crops I had planted, tended, and grown with my own hands. I moved my harvest to soil that wasn't poisoned. If their field is empty now, it's because they never planted anything of their own. They just waited for me to feed them. I filed the letter away in a drawer labeled Resolved. I didn't reply. My lawyer would handle it. I stood by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. The city looked clean, washed new. For so long I thought silence was my enemy. I thought it was the place where I disappeared. But looking out at the city I was helping to build, I realized silence wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to create without the constant noise of other people's demands. I turned away from the window and walked back to my drafting table. I picked up a pen. The paper was blank, white, and waiting. I wasn't the mechanic anymore. I wasn't the fixer. I was the architect, and I had a lot of work to do. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, or if you're building something new in the quiet, share a seedling emoji in the comments. Let's grow together.